Hello viewers, welcome to Voice for Public Sector YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about the forthcoming bank strike on 16th and 17th of this December. United Forum of Bank Unions have called for a nationwide bank strike on 16th and 17th of December. We have today with us C P Krishnan, All India Joint Secretary, Bank Employees Federation of India. Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
Sir, this United Forum of Bank Unions have called for a strike on 16th and 17th of December. And what is all about this strike? How it is going to help the general public of India and the employees of banks?
This strike is basically to protect the public sector banks. See, the public sector banks have done a yeoman service in this country. For the past 50 years, the entire economy has been improved only because of the public sector.
Yes.
In the field of agriculture, in the field of small industries, medium industries, micro industries, in the field of education, in the field of self-help group. Everywhere, without public sector, there is no economy at all. The standard of living of the common man has been completely uplifted because of the public sector banks. Today, out of 110 lakh crores, around 40 to 50 lakh crores are lent to these people. If banks are tomorrow, by any chance, privatized, these people will be completely deprived of their credit, and ultimately their standard of living will be in doldrums, and it will spoil the economy and it will ruin the economy to a very great extent, because the purchasing power will not be there in the hands of the people, and thereby there will not be any demand, and that will contract the demand, and that will contract the production, and the whole economy will come to a standstill. That is why we oppose privatization of public sector banks.
Yes, comrade. Withdraw Banking Laws Amendment Bill is one of your demands. What does this bill really states about?
Actually, we do not know what is the bill that is going to come. The bill has not been circulated. See, in a democratic country, when 26 bills have been already earmarked for this winter session, it is expected of the government to circulate the contents of the bill and its background, everything well in advance. But nothing has been circulated, number one. Number two, we understand that this bill is going to amend the Basic Banking Companies Act 1970 and Banking Companies Act 1980. In 1970, 14 banks were nationalized. Through Banking Companies Act 1980, 6 banks were nationalized. If these two acts are amended to such an extent that the minimum shareholding level of the government is 51% as of now, if that is going to be reduced to 33 or 26 or 0, the government may come out with any idea, we do not know. And ultimately, the banks will go to the hands of the private. People are thinking that only 2 banks are going to be privatized, because in the press, some banks' names are appearing. But actually, as in the case of general insurance, the bill is such that it is going to reduce the government shareholding to below 51%, and thereby all the 11 public sector banks except State Bank of India are vulnerable through any administrative action at any point of time. Any of the 11 banks can be privatized. That is the danger looming large because of this move of the government of India.
Yes, comrade. Was there any consultation with any of the stakeholders about the amendment bill?
Actually, very regrettably, there was no consultation at all. See, actually, we are 10 lakh bank employees. We represent, the UFBU represents all the 10 lakh bank employees. When the very announcement was made in the budget by the finance minister that 2 banks are going to be privatized in this year, we immediately protested. On March 15th and 16th, the entire country, all the bank employees, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, struck work and showed our anger, anguish and protest against the privatization move of the government. But the government did not bother. See, when we went and approached one of the staff members for collecting signature against privatization move of this government to be submitted to the Prime Minister, he asked one sharp question Sir, I was working in a private firm, in an IT firm. There was no job security. I have come here to a government bank for the sake of job security, even though the salary was a little less. Now, if my bank is going to be privatized, I am not consulted. I have come in a government bank. How can my bank be handed over to a private firm without my consulting me, without asking me opinion? This is the question he exactly poses. When we went and approached a customer, he asked, see, already we have burnt fingers. During this 10-15 years back, the NBFCs like RBF or Cholamandalam or Balu Jewellers, I have invested huge money and lost. That is why I come to a government bank. Without asking me, without consulting me, how can this bank be handed over to a private? And then my money is not safe. Then I am not going to be taken into consideration at all. This is a question posed by a customer when we went for signature campaign. Thereby, 85 crores customers were not consulted. 10 lakh bank employees were not consulted. And apart from that, none of the general body meetings, even the small shareholders, they were also not consulted in any of these public sector banks by their general bodies. Therefore, there was absolutely no consultation, and in fact, against the will of these people, all stakeholders, these bills are going to be brought. This is the stark reality.
Yes, comrade. What will be the impact of the bill on present employees and the future opportunities of the employment?
In private banks, the recruitment itself is very non-transparent. They are not holding any tests, open tests like IBPS. They are not having a transparent interview system. Therefore, all people have no equal opportunities in entering into the banking service. This is number one. Number two, the job security. See, in private banks, see, particularly if you take the new generation private banks or the foreign bank branches, the job security is at very stake. Hundreds and thousands of people have been sacked in the past by HSBC management and other managements. And in HDFC or ICICI, people are on contract employment only, most of them, like that. Here, in public sector banks, the system is very transparent and the recruitment process is very open and it gives equal opportunity to all, number one. Number two, there is a job guarantee. Once a person enters into the banking service, he can safely complete his services up to 30, 35 years or 40 years till his superannuation if he is not indulging in any of the fraudulent activities. That's all. Here, the question is the very social justice is at stake if the banks are privatized. Today, in the recruitment, we are taking care of SCs, STs, OBCs, MBCs, ex-servicemen, WhatsApp ex-servicemen, and widows, and all reservations and physically challenged. And none of these reservations will be there. The people from the ordinary and the downtrodden family cannot enter the banking industry if the banks are privatized. Therefore, it will have a very deep negative impact in the standard of living of the common man. Therefore, we strongly oppose this privatization move.
The finance minister claims that by giving huge capital to the public sector banks, the public money is wasted. What is your opinion on this?
This is not a valid argument at all. See, first of all, I want to clarify one thing. The banks are earning huge profits. People are telling that the public sector banks are running loss and all. It's not a fact. It's earning a huge profit. For instance, in the past 5 years, in 2015-16, about 1.5 lakh crores, 16-17, 1.5 lakh crores, 17-18, 1.5 lakh crores, 19-20, 1,75,000 crores, and 2021, we have earned 2 lakh crores. It's an operating profit, gross profit. But the money is spent or it is earmarked. Huge money is provisioned for the corporate NPS. Say out of 2 lakh crores, about 1,50,000 crores is earmarked for that. That is why the net profit is 50,000 crores. If we are able to collect from the corporates totally with a teethful law, then the question of net loss or net profit reducing, dwindling net profit does not arise. The entire money, the 2 lakh crores can be up, in total can be given to the government. This is number one. Number two, because of the loss of the land, say for instance you take this Debt Recovery Act or this IBC or this ARC system, Asset Reconstruction Company system, in all these methods, huge haircut, that is huge money, a lot of money, thousands of crores of money is written off. See, in the case of 13 people, big corporates, about 2 lakh crores have been written off. So this money is the huge loss for the banks. If we are able to collect all this money, the government need not give even 1 rupee capital. The government in fact has given 3 lakh crores capital. That 3 lakh crores capital that has come into the banks have gone to the corporates. The banks are used as a conduit to help the corporates. That can be very well stopped if you are able to collect the money from the corporates, number one. Number two, and this government is claiming that the public money is drained. And it is not because of the capital to the public sector banks, it is because of the loss of the land which are totally inefficient, and that is why the money, public money is wasted to the corporates. It should be stopped is our view also. That's all.
Yes, comrade. When we talk about private banks, some intellectuals claim that the private banks perform well. What is your opinion on this?
Actually, I don't know whether there is any truth in that. If you take the per branch complaint or per employee complaint or any such thing, in all the parameters, the public sector banks fare very well, number one. Number two, we have seen the performance of the private sector banks in the independent India. Between 1947 and 1969, 558 private banks have been closed and the people's money have been lost. Even after 1969, 38 private banks have been closed because of their non-performance. They are not able to run the bank, and that is why the banks, private banks have been closed, and 25 of the 38 banks have been rescued by the public sector banks. Otherwise, those banks would have been completely in doldrums and people's money would have been lost. And even after the advent of the neoliberal policies, the Global Trust Bank, the Times Bank, the Centurion Bank, like that 4 banks have been closed out of 10 banks. So the performance of the private banks is always, they are inefficient and they are not able to run the show, and they get closed, they become bankrupt, number one. Number two, you take the latest examples. If you take infrastructure, leasing and finance, IL&FS, about 1 lakh crore public money is stuck in that. And it's a huge fraud at the top. And if you take DHFL, Diwan Housing Finance Limited, there also 88,000 crores of public money is lost and it is struck. People who believed DHFL and deposited their hard-earned money, about 8,000 crores their money is stuck, and financial institutions money 88,000 crores is stuck in that. You take Yes Bank. Yes Bank was about to completely collapse. Only the State Bank of India, the public sector State Bank of India went to the rescue of Yes Bank. You take Lakshmi Vilas Bank. The Lakshmi Vilas Bank, there is a huge fraud at the top, and ultimately it has been handed over to a Singapore-based bank. So if you take the performance of the private banks in the past or in the present, there is always a top-level fraud and total non-transparency. It is totally opaque, and they have the history of becoming bankrupt and vulnerable very easily. And that is why we say the public sector banks should not be privatized.
In this nationwide strike, whether only the public sector banks are participating or private also participating?
There are private sector bank employees are also participating. There are traditional private banks are there, old generation private banks, about 15 banks are there. The traditional private banks perform more or less like public sector banks. They are having their presence in the rural India. They lend, priority sector lending more or less they are observing. All these things are there. Those banks are also, those bank employees are also on strike for 2 reasons. One, they want the public sector banks to be strengthened. Secondly, they don't want their banks to be taken over by the foreign multinationals like CSB or like LBB. And thirdly, in case of any problem in future because of performance of that particular bank. If public sector banks are not there, what will be their fate? So therefore, the traditional banks, private sector banks employees are also participating in this strike.
Comrade, what is your strategy to defeat the privatization policy actually?
See, comrade, we have been in the war path since the advent of the neoliberal policies. Out of 60 days strike, 44 days we struck work only to defend the banking industry, to strengthen the banking industry, and to prevent banking industry from going into the private hands. Right from Narasimham Committee 1 to Anvarul Hoda Committee, Raghuram Rajan Committee, Khandelwal Committee, this committee, that committee, all committees have recommended privatization of public sector banks. Every time when there was a move to privatize public sector banks, we have been on war path. There was a very serious move in the period of Mr. Vajpayee, when he was the Prime Minister, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, the then Finance Minister, brought a bill to reduce the government holding from 100 to 33%, thereby the clear-cut move of privatizing the public sector banks. The bank employees struck work 2 days, and also along with the democratic forces and the left trade union movements, we have defeated that move. Had we not fought that, about 20 years back itself, the banks would have been privatized. Subsequently also, several moves were there. Suppose the banks were gone into the private hands, in 1997 crisis, 2008 crisis, the entire economy of the country would have come to a standstill, would have been very seriously affected. Now also, we are quite confident that because of our struggle and the support given by the left and the democratic forces, we shall be definitely able to defeat this government, and till we win this battle, this war, we are not going to give up. Already the farmers have shown the way. Because of the consistent struggle of 378 days, they have won and made this government agree to all their demands. All their demands have been met now. Likewise, we will also struggle, and we will also tread the path of the farmers union like SKM. Here there is a UFBU. This UFBU will jointly fight and definitely defeat the sinister move of the government and safeguard the banks, not only for the interest of the employees but also for the interest of the public, and thereby we all are going to celebrate the victory, and we are going to push back this government sinister move by continuous struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. On behalf of Voice for Public Sector, we wish you all success. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank the Voice for Public Sector. I also appeal to the common man to support the December 16th and 17th strike, the countrywide strike by the bank employees and officers. And this strike is for the common man. This strike is for protecting the public sector. This strike is for uplifting the standard of living of the common man. Therefore, we seek the support of the common man, even though there can be a little inconvenience in these 2 days. We request them, we regret for that, and we request them to bear with that and support our strike. Thank you.